Welcome to Start Healing with YFAC, the Yavapai Family Advocacy Center podcast. YFAC provides any and all types of support for victims of interpersonal crime in Yavapai County. Hi, I'm Missy. I'm the director at the Yavapai Family Advocacy Center, and April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So today we're going to talk about some common myths that people have around sexual assault and why they happen, and perhaps why they believe that maybe it's not true that it happened. And we're also going to talk about ways that we can talk to our children and our teens and help them feel safe and empower them to report when something happens to them. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. This is a really hard topic to talk about, but I'd like to go into it a little bit and give some information around some common myths and misconceptions regarding sexual assault. Here in Yavapai County, we recognize the Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and this is a good opportunity for us to identify ways to come together as a community to address this problem that is much more prevalent than I think that people believe. One common myth that people have around sexual assault is that it's not going to happen to you or anyone that you know. And this is a myth. We know that sexual assault happens to people of all ages and all genders, men, women, anybody from any economic class can and has been a victim of sexual assault. It occurs in rural areas, small towns, large cities. And according to the U.S. Department of Justice, a rape or attempted rape occurs every 5 minutes in the United States. So we know those are happening here in Yavapai County. We also know, those of us that work in this field, that approximately 1 out of 10 victims will ever make a report or tell anybody if they have been sexually assaulted. So that's why it's really important that we as a community come together and talk about this and make this something that we talk about in a way that we're not negatively talking about our community and that this happens here. We're talking about it in a way that we're not going to tolerate it or allow it to happen here. We want to protect our citizens. Another myth that comes up all the time in the people that we work with that have gone through something like this is that a sexual assault is provoked by the victim's actions, behaviors, or by the way that they dress. Sexual assault is never the victim's fault. Sexual assault is a violent act that happens on an individual. It is something that somebody else does to them to degrade them and humiliate them. Sexual assault is very rarely and almost never a crime of sexual desire or passion. It is a showing of power and control over somebody and dominance. And there's much research and studies done by the FBI, the National Medical Association, that show that when people are perpetrating these kinds of crimes, their motivation is really about having control. Another myth that we hear and we see perpetuated on TV all the time is that most sexual assaults occur between strangers. This is completely 100% not true. Most sexual assaults are committed by someone the victim knows, maybe a neighbor, a friend, an acquaintance, a coworker, a classmate, a partner or an ex-partner. And studies show that approximately 80% of women reporting sexual assault knew who their assailant was. Sexual assaults don't happen in dark alleys and they don't happen in isolated areas. Most all sexual assaults are going to happen in a place where somebody knows and feels safe. The majority of assaults occur in places ordinarily thought to be safe, such as somebody's home, their car, or an office. I hear a lot, too, that women falsely accuse men of sexual assault or rape. This is definitely a myth. Reported sexual assaults are true with very few exceptions. The FBI crime statistics consistently show year after year that between 2 and 10% of reported rapes are false. And this is the exact same rate of false reporting as any other major crime or felony. So this crime is no different. There aren't more false reported rapes than any other crime that happens to people. A myth we hear a lot is that men can't be sexually assaulted. And this is also not true. Men can be and are assaulted. And in fact, here in Yavapai County, we give services to men every year that have been a victim of this type of crime. We hear a lot that people say that people who commit sexual assault are mentally ill or abnormal. This is also not true. Sex offenders come from all educations, occupations, racial and cultural backgrounds. They're ordinary and they're normal individuals who sexually assault victims to assert their power and control over them and inflict violence and humiliation. Something that I hear too is that if somebody has been a victim of sexual assault, they're going to be battered and bruised and injured. We rarely see this. Rarely. Almost all victims of sexual assault that come through our center have no visible injuries. This is, again, a power and control issue, and that can be exerted psychologically, physically, and emotionally. It's fear instilled in a person to where they feel like they have no choice but to have this happen to them. That leads into another myth that we hear all the time, that why didn't they fight back? Why a person should fight back. If they didn't fight back, then it couldn't have been an assault. There is so much research around what a person's brain does when they're experiencing trauma. Their brain goes into shock and fear, and many times they will freeze where they are, and that is a survival mode for all people. And so that is typically what they're doing. They're going to freeze, do what they need to do to get out of it, and then come forward and tell somebody later if they decide to tell. These are just some of the myths that we hear about. And, I don't want to dwell on, again, negative things, but it's really important that we educate our community to the fact that this happens every day to people that we know everywhere. And this crime is a lot of times exacerbated by being combined with other crimes. There's a lot of sexual assaults and domestic violence. People think that if you are a spouse or a partner of someone, that it's not possible for them to rape you. Under our law, under Arizona state statute and our national laws, when a person says no and somebody forces a sexual act on them, that is breaking the law and that is a sexual assault. So we need to understand that it doesn't matter who you are, what your relationship is to another person. If the answer is no, then that means no. So something else I wanted to talk a little bit about is ways that we can start to educate ourselves, and particularly our kids, and kind of help our kids grow up to be more empowered. So they're not 1 in 10 of these victims that these things are happening to, right? We want to teach our young kids the language that they need to use to talk about their bodies and their boundaries, and to help them understand what is allowed and what is inappropriate. This is a way that we can help teach them ahead of time that they have ownership over their own body and they are allowed to say no when they're not comfortable with something that's happening. It's important that we teach our kids the appropriate names for their body parts, because when things like this happen, people are talking to them about their body parts. And so we want them to be able to use those words when they're explaining what's happened to them, and to have the language that they need to call out for help, or to come to their parents or their loved ones for help. Some parts of our bodies are private and some are not. And we need to teach that to our children and let them know that other people should not be touching the parts of their bodies that are private. And if a healthcare professional needs to see your child or touch those parts of their body, then be with them, be present with them. Let them know that you're there to help keep them safe, because we all know that's an uncomfortable situation for anyone. We want to teach our kids it's okay to say no when something doesn't feel right. For instance, if you go to a holiday with family members and everybody wants to hug your kiddo, and some of those people your kiddo doesn't want to hug, empower them. Let them know it's okay to say no. If they don't want physical contact, they need to have that voice over their own body and be able to say no. We need to talk to our kids about secrets in a way that doesn't put them in a situation where they feel like they're going to be in trouble. We want to let them know that it's okay to tell us a secret, that when somebody has done something to them and told them this is a secret between you and I, and if you tell you're going to be in trouble, no, you're not. We want to teach them that secrets are something that they can share with you. You're their trusted caregiver, and they can share those secrets in confidence that it's not going to come back on them and get them in trouble. We want to reassure our kids that they can never get in trouble for protecting themselves and their own bodies. You want to be that parent that allows them the power to come to you and tell you things and to say no to somebody when they're doing something to them. We also want to make sure that we make time with our kids to allow them to feel important to us. And I know that our kids are important to all of us, and we all want them to know that. But I can tell you as a mom of adults and now a grandma, as a prior educator for 15 years, as a person that's taught parenting classes for 20 years, it's so easy for us as parents and caregivers to feel that they're important and for them to feel important, but we need to have conversations with them and allow them to hear our words and say, you are important to me and your safety is the most important thing to me. We want to give them a few minutes of undivided attention every day to tell us whatever is on their mind. And I used to teach this in a parenting class. Your kiddo comes home and you've got 50 things that have to get done between making dinner and feeding dogs and laundry and all those things. And if you stop what you're doing and sit down and make eye contact and spend 5 to 10 minutes with your child, they're going to get tired of you and move away. And it's going to be a much more pleasant experience for you to get back to the things that you're wanting to do. And they're not going to be coming in and trying to say something every 30 seconds and kind of interrupting your process. And that the thing in this situation that happens with that is you are allowing them a space every day to have a voice with you and to know that they are the most important thing in your world right then and in that moment. And that's going to allow them in the future to say, I need to have a minute with you. I need to talk to you. And they're going to be telling you things that they may not tell you when they know that they're rushing you or that they're a burden, that they're making things more difficult and you need them to wait. We want them to have that voice to come to us sooner. Something that we can do with our teens as they get older, of course, a lot of these things aren't going to work with teens, is, we still need to be talking to them about things like sexual assault. Because sexual assault can mean so many things. It's not always, getting pinned down and having, horrible full physical things happen to you for a length of time. It can be somebody walking by and groping you, touching you, saying really inappropriate sexual things to you that make you uncomfortable, telling you things about them sexually. Those kinds of things are really uncomfortable, and we want to give our teens some tools that they can use to work around that as well. So we want to make sure that we do things that are relevant to them. So let's use media to make things relevant for them, right? Let's look at the things that they're watching and the things that are going on in their lives. And then, maybe there's a movie where a situation's come up and you can say, hey, let's sit down and talk about like that one situation, or bring it up during the movie. But if you've built a relationship where you have open conversations around these things, then they're again going to be more likely to come and talk to you about it if something's going on with them. Use your own experiences to whatever level you're comfortable. We know so often that 1 out of 4 women and 1 out of 6 men have had some sort of inappropriate sexual contact in their lifetime, right? Somebody's done something to you that made your hair stand up on end and made you feel uncomfortable. Use those situations and talk to your teens and educate them. Say, hey, this is a situation where I didn't feel good, and now you're starting to go out and I drop you off at the movies and you go do stuff alone, or you go here alone. And that's kind of when somebody did something to me. So I just want to give you that information and help you be a little bit more prepared for that situation. We just want to make sure that we open the door and allow them to talk about it. And we want to talk to them at some point very openly and honestly about sexual assault directly, because a lot of our teens, like us, have misconceptions about sexual assault and what it means. So we want to let them know some of those myths. Just because a person gets drunk or just because a person dresses promiscuously does not allow somebody the right to harm them. And so we want to have those kinds of conversations with our teens and make sure that they understand that they, again, have the right to protect themselves. They have the right to seek help when something does happen. And that they are important to us. So those are some of the things that we're focusing on at the Yavapai Family Advocacy Center. We're doing support groups and some art groups around just self-empowerment and safety. And it is important to us that we are teaching our young people, and those of us that are adults that maybe have forgotten it, that safety is really important, and personal safety above all else is really important. We can't go out and be productive, happy citizens in our community and contribute if we don't feel safe in the places that we go and the people that we're around. Again, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. You're probably going to be seeing things on social media or whatever, pop-ups about it. Please take a moment and look at them. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of great tools that may be more useful to you than others, but just take this month and spend a little bit of time thinking about how this happens, how to protect yourselves, how to protect your friends and your community and your family, and how to stay safe. Thank you for tuning in to Start Healing with YFAC, the Yavapai Family Advocacy Center podcast. If you or someone you know needs assistance, please don't hesitate to contact us online at yfac.org or call us at 928-775-0669. Start Healing with YFAC is proud to be on Cast 11, Prescott's podcast network. Find us wherever you stream your podcasts.